He grabbed my suitcase, walked out to the curb, and threw it into the street like it was garbage. After everything I sacrificed, after moving states, leaving my friends and career, that moment, that was the day I stopped crying and started planning. Stick with me while I share my story, and if it touches you, don't forget to support our channel by hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like, and sharing it with the people you care about. I moved from Ohio to Georgia because I thought I was in love. His name was Tyler. We met at a mutual friend's party, and everything felt perfect. He was charming, confident, and said all the right things. Within 3 months, he asked me to move in with him. I was working a stable job in supply chain back in Ohio, had a decent apartment, and friends who truly cared about me, but I gave it all up. I broke my lease early, packed my life into 2 suitcases, and moved states for him. I believed in us. At first, things were okay. He made me laugh, and we talked about our future like it was already written in stone. But once I settled in, something shifted. Tyler started picking at everything I did. He said I talked too much, that I didn't understand how his business worked. He got angry over little things, what I cooked, how I cleaned, even what I wore to the grocery store. Slowly, I realized I wasn't a girlfriend anymore. I was a burden in his eyes. Then came the money problems. I found a credit card bill he had hidden, one I never knew existed. When I asked him about it, he snapped, said it wasn't my business. I reminded him I left everything behind for him, that I was job hunting, barely getting by, and didn't sign up for secrets. He didn't want to hear it. That night, it all exploded. We argued louder than ever. I said I felt trapped. He laughed in my face. Then, without a word, he grabbed one of my suitcases, walked outside in the pouring rain, and threw it onto the street. It hit the curb and flipped open. My clothes, my things, my whole life, scattered across the wet pavement. He stood in the doorway, proud of what he did, like it was a joke. I didn't cry. Not then. I walked out, picked up what I could, and left. No screaming, no begging, just silence. I didn't have much, but I had enough to start over. And as I stood there soaking wet, I made a quiet promise to myself. He'd regret this. He wouldn't see it coming. But one day, he'd feel the damage, just like I did. Jenna didn't ask too many questions when I showed up at her door with a half-soaked suitcase and tired eyes. She just opened the door wide and pulled me into a hug. "You can take the guest room," she said. "It's yours as long as you need." I nodded, trying to swallow my pride. I was embarrassed, not just because I had nowhere else to go, but because I had trusted someone who clearly never deserved it. I didn't tell Jenna everything. Not yet. I said Tyler and I had a fight, that I needed space, that it just didn't work out. She didn't push. Maybe she could see I wasn't ready. The guest room was small, barely enough space for the suitcase and my thoughts, but it was warm and quiet. And for now, that was enough. I spent most of the first day sleeping. Grief does that. It makes your body shut down, like it's trying to escape the shame and sadness. But by the second night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying everything, every red flag I ignored, every moment I made excuses for Tyler's behavior. The way he used to hand me his phone and say, "Just handle it, babe," like I was his personal assistant. I used to think it meant he trusted me. Now I realized it was just convenience. I opened my laptop and pulled up the shared email account we once used for his contracting business. He never changed the password. I started digging through everything. Old client emails, quotes, invoices. My stomach twisted the deeper I went. That's when I saw it. Several invoices billed for jobs that, as far as I knew, were never completed. One client had emailed twice, asking for updates. Tyler had ignored them. Another invoice had a delivery fee for materials I remembered him cancelling to cut costs. The amount he charged didn't match anything I remembered ordering. I started saving everything. Screenshots, spreadsheets, email. I copied files onto a flash drive I kept hidden in my makeup bag. I didn't even know what I'd do with it yet. All I knew was that Tyler had been scamming people, and I had the paper trail to prove it. Jenna knocked on my door once to see if I wanted tea. I said I was tired. I wasn't ready to talk. Not yet. But in that quiet room, lit only by my laptop screen, I felt something shift inside me. I was done crying over him. I wasn't just going to heal. I was going to make sure he never did this to anyone else again. And I wasn't going to get loud. I was going to get smart. 2 weeks after moving in with Jenna, I landed a temp job at a logistics firm. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills and gave me something to focus on. Most days were quiet, just data entry and scheduling freight pickups. I kept my head down and tried not to think about Tyler, but of course, Life has a funny way of circling back. One afternoon in the break room, I was making tea when a junior real estate developer named Carson from another department struck up a conversation. He mentioned he was working on a new townhouse project across town. Nothing huge, but big enough to draw a lot of contractor bids. When he said the name of the development, my hands froze. I knew that name. I'd seen it in Tyler's file. Late one night while he was asleep, I'd helped him organize folders for bidding on jobs. That townhouse project was one of them. But back then, something felt off. I remembered vendor quotes that didn't make sense, numbers that looked too good to be real. At the time, I told myself he just knew how to negotiate, but now, I knew better. That evening, I dug back into the folder I'd saved. It was all still there. Screenshots of forged vendor quotes, emails where Tyler copied real company logos and changed totals to undercut the competition. He wanted the job so badly, he was willing to fake numbers to get it. I sat back and took a deep breath. This wasn't just petty lying or relationship drama. This was fraud. I didn't want it traced back to me. I didn't want drama or revenge to be my whole identity. So I started building a clean folder, just facts, screenshots, dated files, real quotes from vendors compared to the ones Tyler submitted. I stripped it of anything personal, no messages from me, no names, just truth. Then I uploaded it all to a USB stick, labeled it with the project's codename, and stored it in my bag. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but one thing was clear. Tyler wasn't just a bad boyfriend. He was a bad businessman, and the world needed to see that, just not from me directly. It was a quiet Saturday morning when I heard the knock. Jenna was in the shower, and I figured it was a package delivery. I wasn't expecting anyone, but when I opened the door, my stomach dropped. Tyler. He stood there holding a bouquet of flowers, his signature fake smile on full display. "Hey, Aubrey," he said softly, like he was some wounded hero trying to win back the woman he lost. "Can we talk?" I didn't say anything. I stepped back just enough to block the doorway. "I miss you," he continued. "I know I messed up. I've been thinking about us, about everything. Look, I got you these, your favorites, right?" He lifted the flowers. They were the kind he used to grab from the grocery store when he forgot an anniversary. Jenna, still wet from the shower, had cracked open her bedroom door down the hall. She didn't say anything, just leaned quietly against the frame, arms crossed, listening. I stayed calm. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I simply looked at him and said, "I'm not interested, Tyler. You made your choice." He blinked, stunned I wasn't falling for his act. "Babe, come on. We were good together. You just overreacted. You always do." That did it. I stepped outside, gently shut the door behind me, and said, "You threw my life out onto the street, Tyler. Literally. And now you think a bundle of cheap flowers makes it better." He sighed. "I didn't mean to, but you did," I cut in. "And I'm done." I turned and walked back inside, locking the door behind me. I could feel Jenna watching, but she didn't say anything, just gave me a slow nod. She knew. She'd heard enough. That night, as I was drying dishes after dinner, my phone buzzed. It was Erin, a mutual friend from back in Ohio. We hadn't talked much since I left, but I picked up. "Hey," she said, hesitant. "I just thought you should know. Tyler was at Brett's place earlier. He was bragging about you." I frowned. "Bragging?" "Yeah. Saying you had a meltdown and couldn't handle the move, that you weren't cut out for the big city. Called you a disaster." I didn't respond for a moment. I felt the words hit, but not like they used to. They didn't sting. They just confirmed what I already knew. "Thanks for telling me," I said. After we hung up, I sat alone for a moment. He hadn't changed. Not at all. Still manipulating, still twisting the story, so he looked like the victim. But I wasn't the same either. I'd let him throw me out once. I'd never let it happen again. And the next time his world started falling apart, he wouldn't even know I was the one who lit the match. Late one night, after hours of staring at my laptop, I finally did it. I created a new email address using a fake name and sent a message to one of Tyler's former clients. I remembered the man well, Paul Andrews. He was an older gentleman, very sharp, and Tyler had been extra careful around him. I also remembered the way Tyler had grumbled afterward, saying Paul was too nosy and liked to nitpick. That had stuck with me. In the email, I didn't give away who I was. I just wrote, "You might want to look into the permits and vendor quotes submitted by Tyler Brooks for your last project. They may not be what they seem." I attached a few blurred screenshots as a hint and hit send. I didn't expect a reply. Honestly, I figured he'd ignore it or assume it was spam. But 2 days later, I got a response. It was direct and simple. "Who are you? And how do you know this?" I didn't respond right away. I read his message over and over again. Then, after some thought, I sent another email. This time, I told him the truth. Not every detail, but enough. I told him my name was Aubrey, that I had been close to Tyler, and I'd seen things I couldn't unsee. I said I had evidence, but didn't want to get directly involved because of safety and privacy concerns. I also said I believed he had been misled. The reply came the next day. Paul asked to meet. I was hesitant at first, but something about his tone told me he wasn't looking for drama. So we met at a small cafe during the late afternoon, quiet and low-key. He was in his early 60s, silver hair, steady hands, and eyes that missed nothing. I told him everything, how Tyler forged documents, how he manipulated me, and how I had the files. Paul didn't look surprised. "I always thought something wasn't right with him," he said, "but I never had enough proof." He offered to help, quietly, carefully. "I've been waiting for a reason to look deeper into his operations," he said, sipping his coffee. "Now I've got one." I left the cafe feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks. Steady, maybe even hopeful. The unraveling began slowly, just a loose thread at first. A week after our meeting, Paul sent a discreet message. "Check your inbox." There it was, a forwarded email from one of Tyler's main suppliers. Paul had anonymously flagged the discrepancies in Tyler's invoices. The supplier had reviewed the billing records and found multiple overcharges and unpaid balances Tyler had masked with fake payment confirmations. The result? A full cancellation of the upcoming $20,000 materials order for the townhouse project. Tyler must have been blindsided. That order was crucial to breaking ground. Without it, construction stalled. But that was just the first domino. Within days, I started hearing from mutual contacts, people Tyler had worked with, subcontractors, vendors, even an old crew foreman. Something was off, they said. Paychecks were late. Promised work hadn't started. One guy said Tyler claimed the checks were held up by a bank issue, but no one was buying it anymore. Word spread fast in Tyler's small circle. His crew, already frustrated from being overworked and underpaid, started walking away. One by one, the plumber quit. Then, the site electrician. Finally, the lead project manager dropped out, telling the client he wouldn't risk his license for a shady contractor. I didn't reach out to any of them. I didn't need to. I was just watching. From Jenna's guest room, I carefully pieced together more of the puzzle. Tyler had lied to clients, underpaid workers, and doctored documents, and I had proof of every bit. I had kept it all. Email drafts, file names, scanned receipts. Some nights I stayed up until 3 a.m., organizing it in quiet rage. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about making sure he didn't keep hurting people the way he hurt me. Then came my next move. I printed one page. Just one. A copy of a building permit Tyler had bragged about getting early, months ago. I remembered the night he told me he knew a guy and could speed up approvals. I thought he was exaggerating back then. Now I knew better. The permit was fake. Wrong signatures, wrong city clerk. Even the date was off. I mailed it anonymously to the neighborhood association overseeing the townhouse project. I didn't hear back, of course, but I didn't need to. 2 days later, a halt notice appeared on the site's perimeter fence. Someone had caught on, and Tyler, he didn't even know where the trouble had started. He just kept spinning, trying to fix leaks that wouldn't stop. And I kept watching, quiet, focused, steady, because Tyler was finally feeling what it was like to lose control. Aubrey knew it was time to stop cleaning up Tyler's mess in silence. Even after walking away, his unpaid bills were still following her. One morning, Jenna handed her a letter that had come to their apartment. It was from the old landlord. Final notice. The rent on the place she used to share with Tyler was still overdue, and both their names were on the lease. If it wasn't paid, it would hit her credit too. That was the last straw. She sat at the kitchen table with a folder full of receipts, bills, and bank statements. Proof of everything she'd paid for during their relationship. Rent, utilities, groceries, repairs. Tyler promised he'd get next time, but never did. It all added up. Thousands of dollars. Jenna's brother Matteo, a certified CPA, offered to help. He'd heard some of the story already and didn't ask many questions, just opened his laptop, rolled up his sleeves, and started sorting the documents. For hours, they worked side by side. Matteo made neat spreadsheets. He double-checked each transaction, cross-referenced emails with payment confirmations, and even pulled Tyler's name from a few shared purchases. Every dollar was documented and clearly tied to joint living expenses. No guesswork, no emotion, just facts. "This is solid," Matteo said finally. "If he tries to fight it, he won't win." Aubrey took a deep breath, both nervous and proud. It felt strange to put numbers on all the things she'd sacrificed. Nights she worked late, skipped dinners, cut corners to keep their lives afloat. But now, those sacrifices were proof, and she was finally putting a price on her silence. The next morning, she mailed a certified letter to the landlord explaining the situation and formally removing herself from responsibility. She attached the spreadsheet and copies of receipts to back her claim. Then she sent another certified package, this one to Tyler. Inside was the full breakdown of what he owed her. No threats, no angry words. Just a clean, clear debt statement with a final line. "You always said you were a businessman. Consider this business." She didn't wait for a reply. She didn't need one. For once, the weight of Tyler's chaos wasn't on her shoulders anymore. Aubrey sat in the corner booth of a local cafe, sipping iced tea and watching the door. She had called ahead, pretending to be a businesswoman looking to build out a new wellness studio in the city. It wasn't entirely a lie, just a half-truth wrapped in strategy. She knew Tyler was trying to land this commercial build, and if he got it, it could be his comeback. She couldn't let that happen. When the gym owner, Marcus Leland, walked in, he looked exactly how she pictured. Early 40s, well-groomed and direct. He spotted her immediately and walked over, smiling politely. "Miss Callahan?" he asked. "Yes, thanks for meeting me," Aubrey replied, standing up to shake his hand. They sat down, and she started with light conversation, asking about the space, what he envisioned, and what kind of timeline he was looking at. She dropped Tyler's name casually, saying she'd heard he was one of the contractors under consideration. Marcus nodded. "He's one of 3 bids I've got on the table," he said. He came across confident. Aubrey gave a small smile. "He usually does." She pulled a folder from her bag, sliding it across the table slowly. "I want to be upfront with you. I was involved with Tyler personally and professionally. I'm not here to slander him. I'm here to show you some facts. Because if I were in your shoes, I'd want someone to do the same for me." Marcus raised an eyebrow and opened the folder. Inside were clean, labeled pages, photos of unfinished home remodels, copies of refund requests, email threads with clients who never got what they paid for. She had even included city permit records, showing Tyler had started jobs before receiving approval. Something Marcus would know could shut down a commercial project fast. "None of this is exaggerated," she said quietly. "You can follow up on every name, every invoice. I've blacked out personal info, but the core facts are untouched. I'm not asking you to take sides. Just don't walk into something blind." Marcus looked through the materials carefully, his face growing more serious with every page. "Thank you," he said after a long pause. "You've probably saved me a lawsuit." Aubrey nodded, gathering her things. "That's all I wanted." As she walked out, the summer sun hit her face. She didn't need revenge headlines or applause. The quiet satisfaction of knowing she'd protected someone and blocked Tyler's next escape route was enough. News traveled fast in the contracting world, especially in a city like theirs. Aubrey didn't have to do anything more. Word was already spreading. A week after her quiet meeting with Marcus, she got a text from Jenna. "Guess who just lost the fitness studio deal?" Aubrey didn't reply right away. She just smiled. Tyler's name was quickly being scratched off shortlists. Not long after, Aubrey overheard 2 co-workers talking about a townhouse development downtown. One mentioned a contractor getting booted for permit issues. She didn't say a word, but she knew. Tyler was officially dropped from that project too. She didn't feel joy, not exactly. What she felt was a deep, calming justice. He had thrown her out into the rain without a second thought, and now everything he had tried to build with lies was slowly collapsing. Through contacts and quiet whispers, she learned more. Tyler had started pawning off tools and equipment, some of which Aubrey knew he'd bought on credit he hadn't paid off. A mutual acquaintance mentioned he'd missed rent twice in a row, and his landlord was threatening eviction. The cherry on top, his contractor's license was under formal review for fraud. Paul, the retired attorney, had filed the original complaint discreetly, just as promised. Then came the voicemail. Aubrey had just gotten home from work when her phone buzzed. She didn't recognize the number, but something told her to check. It was Tyler. His voice was angry and sarcastic, laced with guilt, tripping and bitterness. "You really think you're better than me now? After everything I did for you? You used me. You ruined me. You want to play games? Fine. Just remember who made you who you are. She listened once, calmly. Then she saved the voicemail, just in case. No reply, no second thought. She opened her contacts and deleted his number without hesitation. Whatever part of her that once wanted closure had been replaced with clarity. Tyler's fall wasn't loud or dramatic. It was slow, embarrassing, and entirely his doing. And Aubrey? She was already walking away from the wreckage, head high, heart steady, and without a single regret. A few months later, Aubrey stood at the entrance of her new townhouse, keys in hand, heart steady. It was hers. Every corner, every room. The walls felt like freedom, not just bricks and paint. She had paid the deposit with money she saved from no longer paying Tyler's bills, no longer cleaning up after his messes. Every dollar felt like a little piece of her peace. Her new job wasn't just a job, it was a step forward. She'd been offered a full-time position as a regional logistics lead for a growing company, and it felt earned, not handed. The work was demanding, but she liked that. She liked knowing where things were going, how they got there, how it all fit together. Maybe that was why she'd been so good at keeping Tyler's chaos hidden for so long. She knew how to organize disaster, but now she was building something real, something solid, and it was hers alone. She never told anyone the full story of how Tyler's life had unraveled. Not Jenna, not her new co-workers, not even Paul, who had quietly stepped away once things were in motion. Aubrey didn't need to explain. She had done what she had to do, and now she was done. Tyler was somewhere out there, jobless, bitter, scrambling, but that wasn't her story anymore. One Saturday afternoon, Aubrey was walking home from the farmer's market, a small tote of fresh vegetables in one hand and a coffee in the other. She passed by a construction site where a group of workers were lifting wooden beams and shouting measurements. It hit her for just a second, how different it all looked from the outside. The trucks, the noise, the hard hats. She used to imagine herself next to Tyler on sites like that, dreaming of shared success. Now, she saw the chaos for what it really was, and how close she came to being buried under it. She smiled quietly to herself and kept walking. There were no big speeches, no dramatic revenge posts. No one would ever know how close she'd come to losing herself, or how carefully she had turned the tables, and that was fine. Her life didn't need to be a headline. It just needed to be hers. That evening, she opened a bottle of wine, sat on her porch, and watched the sun go down behind the rooftops. For the first time in a long time, she felt calm, not scared, not rushed, just calm. She didn't need revenge anymore. She had something better, a fresh start. Do you think Aubrey was right to quietly bring Tyler down without ever confronting him face to face? Or should she have given him a final warning? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if stories of strength, survival, and quiet revenge speak to you, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new one.